Taking the tempo away from the Celtics, trying to Michael Jordan right now.
Celtics could only shake their heads as they found themselves unable to shake the Jordan-led Bulls.
Jordan banks it in.
Unintimidated even by Larry Legend, Jordan let it all hang out, displaying much more than mere hang time.
Before the world called him His Airness, before the fadeaway became a trademark, before the rings, the shoes, the dynasty, there was one night where Michael Jordan looked Larry Bird and the greatest Celtics team ever assembled straight in the eye and sent a warning. It wasn't a win. It wasn't a clutch game winner. And it wasn't even a close series. But it was, without question, the moment the entire NBA realized the league was about to belong to a 23-year-old kid from North Carolina who could jump higher, move faster, and burn hotter than anyone they had ever seen. This is the story of April 20th, 1986, the night Michael Jordan dropped 63 points on Larry Bird's Celtics, the best team in basketball, and walked out of the Boston Garden a loser, but also the most feared man in the league. Because, as Larry Bird said afterward, that wasn't Michael Jordan. That was God disguised as Michael Jordan. Today, we're breaking down the full story behind the greatest scoring performance in playoff history. The injuries, the buildup, the atmosphere inside the Garden, every legendary matchup, every moment that made Bird shake his head in disbelief, and why this game became the unofficial warning shot that changed the NBA forever. But to fully understand why this game became a warning to Larry Bird, you need to know the situation Michael Jordan walked into. Because on paper, this matchup never should have been competitive. In fact, Jordan wasn't even supposed to be on the court. Earlier that season, Jordan suffered one of the worst injuries of his young career, a fractured foot that sidelined him for 64 games. For most players, that's a season ender.
But in his third game this season, Air Jordan suffered the first injury of his career. A broken foot sidelined him for 64 games. Yet despite doctors' warnings and management's objections, Michael returned to the Bulls in time for their playoff drive, and many wondered why.
For Bulls management, it was a blessing. Chicago wasn't a championship team. They weren't even a good team. With Jordan out, the front office saw an opportunity. Lose games, secure a high draft pick, build for the future. But Jordan wasn't interested in any future. He didn't just want to play now, he wanted to win now.
One of my reasons for coming back was to really test the foot and see how much stress the foot can really take. If I would have sat out and then came back in September without really testing the foot in an NBA type of situation, and then I have problems, I'm missing next season. So I want to deal with it now.
He attacked rehab with the same fury he used on the court. When doctors ordered rest, Jordan found ways around it, grinding through workouts at UNC, strengthening his foot without the medical staff. He even admits he secretly returned to playing 5-on-5 pickup long before Chicago approved it, because he couldn't stand sitting on the sidelines watching his teammates playing horribly throughout games. When he finally got medical clearance, the Bulls tried to protect their investment by limiting him to 7 minutes per half, a restriction that nearly drove him insane. Imagine telling the most competitive basketball player alive he's only allowed to play in short bursts like a bench role player.
At first, I really couldn't deal with it because I wanted to get out and play so badly. So I kind of stayed away from the team and watched them a little bit on television. And finally, I got into the situation where I could deal with it and I could come back and watch and cheer on from the bench and somewhat control myself from not wanting to play so much.
And yet, despite the restrictions, despite missing almost the entire year, despite the Bulls stumbling to a 30-52 record, Jordan dragged them into the playoffs. Not because Chicago was good, but because Jordan refused to let the season die. And the league rewarded his effort with the worst possible matchup, the 1986 Boston Celtics. A team many still call the greatest of all time, with Larry Bird in the forefront.
On this very floor, this team apparently has no weaknesses. Is that true?
They have a very strong inside game, Dick. Multiple low post players, Robert Parrish, Kevin McHale, Bill Walton, Larry Bird. Very difficult to stop. Timely defense, team defense, the best kind. So they're very difficult to stop outside shooting. They've got it all.
Pair this with Kevin McHale having the best season of his career, Robert Parrish locking down the paint, Dennis Johnson and Danny Ainge forming one of the toughest backcourts in the league, Bill Walton reshaping the second unit and winning 6th Man of the Year. They went 67-15, and inside the Boston Garden, the most feared arena in basketball, they were unbeatable. Jordan was a 23-year-old kid, 1 year removed from college, stepping into a dynasty's home floor with a broken roster behind him. Everyone expected a sweep, and technically, that's what the Celtics delivered. But what they didn't expect was that this series, specifically Game 2, would turn into one of the most unforgettable nights in NBA history. A night they would still be talking about decades later. A night that warned Larry Bird that something dangerous was coming. The build-up to Game 2 carried a strange mix of inevitability and tension. Everyone assumed Boston would roll through Chicago just like they did in Game 1, when they beat the Bulls by 19 without breaking a sweat. To the Celtics, the Bulls were just a warm-up. A young, inexperienced team with no depth, no size, and no chance inside the Boston Garden.
Too much for one man to try and beat the Boston Celtics. Other players have to get involved. Michael Jordan scored half their points in the first half on the other night, and they end up 2 points down. That's astounding. But it's too draining an experience, and they must put pressure on the other Celtic defenders by getting the likes of Dave Corazine, Kyle Macy involved, as well as Orlando Woolridge.
But underneath the surface, something was brewing. Jordan had dropped 49 points in Game 1. It didn't change the outcome, but it did something more important. It got Larry Bird's attention. Bird wasn't impressed easily, especially by young players. But he didn't miss what he saw. The footwork, the hang time, the fearlessness. Boston won comfortably, yet Bird walked away knowing Jordan was no ordinary scorer. Meanwhile, Jordan didn't take the Game 1 loss quietly. He hated the idea that Boston brushed off 49 like it was nothing. He hated the way reporters talked about the Celtics as if the Bulls weren't even in the building. So, when the team bus got stuck in traffic before Game 2, Jordan grabbed a cab, went straight to the Garden, and warmed up alone in the empty arena.
Well, we're playing the Boston Celtics, Pat, but I think it's going to be more of a 5-man game, and we really have to play a complete basketball game. I don't think one man can beat the Boston Celtics.
It's hard to imagine that 6 weeks ago you were sitting on the bench.
Yes, it is. It's very hard for me to imagine. I'm very happy I'm playing now, and I'm very happy that I can contribute to the team.
Game 2 wasn't going to be normal. It was going to be a declaration. From the opening tip of Game 2, you could feel the shift. Boston expected another easy target. The Garden crowd was loud, confident, already assuming the sweep was on the way. But the moment Michael Jordan touched the ball, greatness was in the arena. Dennis Johnson picked them up full court, a former Finals MVP, one of the toughest perimeter defenders alive. Boston wanted to send a message early. Nothing would come easy. Jordan didn't flinch. On Chicago's first possession, he used a simple hesitation dribble, exploded left, and rose over DJ for a soft pull-up at the elbow. Clean, automatic.
It looks like. What should Jordan do in that case?
Look, either put it off the glass and hope that one of his freer players can get an offensive rebound.
On the next possession, Boston sent early help. Kevin McHale shaded toward the paint. Parrish waited at the rim, and Jordan attacked anyway, contorting his body mid-air to finish a twisting layup off the glass. It wasn't just athleticism, it was control and poise.
Parrish and credit Michael Jordan.
Dick, is the tempo of the game by the Bulls to try and get some fast break opportunities.
Jordan found his way in once again and has his second.
But Boston wasn't backing down. Larry Bird started hot, attacking the inside, exploiting mismatches, controlling the tempo the way only he could. Chicago had no answer for him defensively. The Celtics executed their sets perfectly. Screens, post-ups, ball movement, all flowing like a machine.
Bird was nowhere to be seen on Banks.
Bird. Off the wing, the basket good, and a foul.
Loves to fast break, back to Dennis in the middle, and before the defense, he's even alert, the Celtic used
Still, with every basket Boston scored, Jordan hit right back. It didn't matter who guarded him, Ainge, DJ, or a collapsing double team. Jordan scored 0 points from the three-point line. Yet, he was dissecting the Celtics with mid-range precision and fearless drives. And then came the moment of the first quarter, the one that made the Garden gasp. The clip every highlight reel still uses today. Jordan isolated Larry Bird on the left wing. He dribbled once, twice, then hit Bird with a double between the legs rhythm dribble, quick, tight, and perfectly balanced. Bird shuffled to stay in front, but the move created just enough separation. Jordan rose straight up into his jumper, fully controlled, shoulders square, releasing over Bird's outstretched hand. Nothing but nylon.
Casey Jones, in my opinion,
In the first half of the game against the Celtics Thursday, Jordan trying to fake Bird, can't do it. Hits the jumper, but Bird played pretty well defensively against Jordan there. Michael Jordan has 8 points and is the game high scorer.
By the end of the first quarter, the Celtics held the lead 33-25, but the Garden had gone from arrogant to uneasy. Larry Bird looked over at Jordan, not with trash talk, but with recognition. This wasn't the kid from Game 1 anymore. This was a problem. The second quarter opened with Boston looking to settle the game down. Their second unit came in, Bill Walton orchestrating from the high post, Danny Ainge pushing the tempo, McHale and Parrish rotating in and out like a two-headed interior monster. Chicago didn't have that luxury. They needed Jordan on the floor to keep them competitive, and Boston planned to suffocate him early. But Jordan wasn't having it. On his first touch of the quarter, he caught the ball on the left wing and immediately attacked the baseline. Waiting at the rim was Robert Parrish, arms stretched wide, perfectly positioned to contest. Jordan hung in the air between the two bigs, absorbed McHale's hit, twisted his body midair, and somehow flipped the ball off the glass. Whistle, bucket, and one.
Has 8 points and is the game high scorer. Going baseline. Michael Jordan, the basket good and a foul.
The Garden didn't boo. It reacted. A mixture of shock, awe, and disbelief poured through the arena. Boston immediately countered. McHale went to work in the post. Parrish punished Chicago on the boards, and Bird kept the offense humming with mid-range daggers. The Celtics still had the lead, still had control, but they no longer had comfort.
Under 6 minutes to go. Bird. McHale. Parrish.
Because every time they tried to stretch the lead, Jordan stole it right back. He hit pull-ups in the mid-range. He finished acrobatic layups through contact. He broke through traps by splitting them with pure athleticism.
Their problems around Christmas.
they sure didn't. That was the Christmas massacre, but
Boston was executing. Boston was disciplined. Boston was the better team. But Jordan was the best player on the floor, and Bird saw it. During the timeout, he glanced toward Jordan, then toward his teammates, as if silently acknowledging what they were dealing with. By halftime, Boston still led, but the momentum wasn't green anymore. Michael Jordan had turned the Garden from confident to concerned. The third quarter began with Boston determined to put the game away. Bird, McHale, and Parrish looked to assert their dominance in the paint, trying to stretch the lead while controlling the tempo. On Boston's first possession, Larry Bird posted up near the block and calmly floated a right-handed hook shot off the glass, effortless and precise, reminding everyone why he was the leader of this dynasty.
On to 53, an 8-point lead. Bird inside the three-point line, hits for two.
Chicago responded immediately. Michael Jordan grabbed the defensive rebound, turned the corner, and attacked the lane with ruthless intent. Dennis Johnson tried to stay in front, but Jordan exploded past him, driving into the heart of the Celtics defense. Parrish stepped up to get the board. Ainge rotated over. Jordan didn't hesitate. Hanging in the air, he contorted, grabbed the board, and hit in a tough putback through the contact, drawing the foul in the process and won.
Hale tried to double team and Woolridge misses again. Here's Michael Jordan. Basket will be good and a foul, and 25 for Michael Jordan.
Boston tried to respond, but every time they pushed the ball inside, Jordan cut through with surgical precision. He forced defenders to react, punishing hesitation, exploiting gaps, and creating scoring opportunities in traffic. Pull-ups over McHale, floaters off the glass, contested layups that should have been blocked. The paint became his personal playground.
Tempo away from the Celtics, trying to Michael Jordan right now.
10 points in this period for Ainge, and what a great shot, and a basket and a foul. You talk about Bird, sheer determination. At certain points of a game, Michael Jordan has those same qualities.
Bird and the Celtics executed perfectly. McHale sealing, Parrish crashing the boards, Bird hitting jumpers. But none of it could stop Jordan's relentless attack. Each drive into the paint chipped away at their control, turning what should have been a comfortable lead into a constant battle for momentum. By the end of the quarter, Boston still led, but the Garden had shifted. Jordan wasn't just scoring, he was dominating the paint, forcing the Celtics to play defense in a way they weren't accustomed to, and showing that no part of their legendary system could contain him.
This game, Jordan against Ainge. Jumper.
The fourth quarter was a battle from start to finish. Boston and Chicago traded blows, possession by possession. Bird hit tough jumpers from the elbow. McHale scored in the post. Parrish dominated the boards. But every time Boston tried to pull away, Jordan attacked the paint, splitting defenders, finishing through contact, and making impossible shots look routine. With the game tied and the clock winding down, the Bulls inbounded from the opposite side of the court. Jordan caught the ball, exploded down the court, weaving through defenders with his signature speed. As he reached the three-point line, Jordan elevated and released a perfect shot. At the last possible moment, Kevin McHale fouled him, trying desperately to stop the impossible. The buzzer sounded. The crowd erupted. Not in Boston's favor, but in awe of what they had just witnessed.
Michael Jordan working against Dennis Johnson. Clock running down, 3 seconds, three-point shot, no good. And a foul, late sweep. A foul against Kevin McHale has been called by Middleton, with no time showing on the clock. Kevin McHale can't believe it.
Jordan stepped to the free throw line for 3 clutch shots. He sank all 3, tying the game and sending it into overtime. The Celtics had executed flawlessly all night. Rotations, double teams, precision offense, yet they couldn't stop him when it mattered most. Bird shook his head, a mix of disbelief and respect, while the Garden, once confident, now braced for what was coming.
It happened, but players do fake the foul.
He can tie it up here and send the game in overtime. No time remaining. He made his first 16, then missed 2 before he made the 1, and this is pressure. Overtime in Game 2 of our best-of-5 first-round NBA playoff.
And with the game tied, overtime would become the stage where Michael Jordan's 63-point performance would reach its legendary, unforgettable peak. Jordan took control immediately. He pushed the pace, attacking the paint with fearless precision. Every drive collapsed McHale and Parrish, leaving defenders scrambling. He hit pull-ups, floated layups through contact, and converted shots no one else could. The Garden watched in disbelief as he continued to carry the Bulls single-handedly.
Celtics control. Individuals' single-game effort in playoff history. Long-range Jordan hits.
Boston responded with methodical execution. Bird hit step-back jumpers. McHale sealed in the post. Parrish cleaned the boards and punished second-chance opportunities. DJ and Ainge hit timely perimeter shots. Every time Jordan scored, the Celtics answered, experience and cohesion matching raw brilliance.
Jordan with 8 on the clock. Jordan ties the game.
Oh, boy.
63 points, and you're looking at an all-time record.
The game became a tug-of-war, even reaching a second overtime. Jordan scored on every possible angle. Drives, floaters, and mid-range pull-ups kept Chicago in striking distance. Yet Boston's depth and poise allowed them to stay just ahead. Bird sank a critical jumper with under a minute left. Finally, with a Bird-Parrish pick and roll, the Celtics delivered the dagger.
10 on the clock. Bird, pick and roll, Parrish.
When the buzzer sounded, it read Boston 135, Chicago 131. Jordan had scored an unbelievable 63 points, a performance that still echoes through NBA history. He fought through injury, fatigue, and one of the greatest teams ever assembled. He dominated, dazzled, and nearly rewrote the record books. But on this night, even Jordan's brilliance wasn't enough. Boston survived, yet the Celtics had faced a glimpse of the future, the arrival of a transcendent force in Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan's 63-point masterpiece didn't just define Game 2. It defined a moment in NBA history. The Bulls lost 131 to 135 in double overtime, and Boston went on to sweep Chicago. But the final score barely tells the story. Chicago was overmatched on paper, with a roster depleted by injury and inexperience. Yet Jordan turned an impossible situation into a performance that still resonates decades later. He carried the Bulls through every quarter, attacking the paint with unmatched precision, finishing through contact, hitting clutch free throws, and making defenders look small in the moment. Every Boston defender, Bird, McHale, Parrish, felt the pressure of a transcendent talent, one who refused to let the game slip away. The series highlighted the gap between Jordan and the rest of the league at that moment. Chicago would lose all 4 games, but Jordan had announced himself to the world. Even a fractured Bulls roster couldn't stop him. His 63 points weren't just about scoring. They were about fearlessness, determination, and sheer will. For Larry Bird and the Celtics, it was a warning, the emergence of a player who would define a generation. For the Bulls, it was a glimpse of the future, and for the NBA, it was a reminder that legends are forged not only in victories, but in performances that defy expectation. Michael Jordan had arrived.